Okay, our next product is what's called guanciale. Guanciale. Guanciale is made from the jowl right here on either side of a pig. You see that big jowl on there. A lot of times it gets so big that it's up here in their face. And when you look at that, it's layers of meat and fat, layers of meat and fat. And it's usually in a triangle. It's about this big. Okay, this is one right here. And when I went in the hanging room, I found it. I can barely read the tag. It's from 2015. April 14th, 2015. It looks great, doesn't it? A little on the yellow side, and that's when the fat oxidizes. It smells okay, a little oxidized it smells. It doesn't smell rotten by any means. And so there was actually two of them in there. One was in a net, the netting material. This here. There's a process that we go through. Once this is removed from the carcass, you know, it's dredged in salt, and then there's, you know, you weigh it, and there's a certain process we go through. This one was hung in there, and I'll tell you what happens is when it's hung, if the tag, here's the tag right here on this one. Okay, if the tag touches anything, it runs. I mean, if it's up against the product, the fat runs into it, and you can hardly read it. So what has happened in the past, you can barely read that. In the past is people have kind of passed this by because they didn't know what it was. But I went in there and I looked at the tag closely. Yeah, Guanciale, wow, 2015. Let's see how it is. For these smaller cuts of meat, I was skeptical that it would be any good. Yeah, obviously, if I cut into it, I'm going to find some areas that would be good, like right here, you know. And so I ran it through, I cut this one in half, and then I ran it through the slicer and I cut pieces off. And I cut off everything that wasn't oxidized. So all this nice pink and the nice white meat there. But up here I cut this all out, and I cut this rind off. And I sampled it. It was okay. I mean, I could eat it if I was, if it wasn't up against these other products, I would say, hey, it'd probably be pretty good. But up against these other products, it was kind of like, nah, I'm not going to even swallow it. So I didn't. And what I deduced from that is, this is 2017 February. That's a long time, and it's too long. For these smaller cuts of meat, like the pancetta, like the copa, about 3 months is when they're going to be done, and I think that's when they ought to be used. Now, something about that. Let's say that you were to buy one of these copas, and you use half of it, and it's so good you want to save the rest of it for Christmas, right? Well, what you'd have to do is take it and put it in the fridge, right? You'd want to seal it up, keep all the air away from it that you possibly can, and then put it in the fridge. That bacterial action will slow down to almost a stop. Freezing it is an option too, but it is going to degrade it. And here's why. When you freeze something, in this meat there are cells, and the cells have fluid in them. And when you freeze it, a lot of times that fluid will crystallize and it'll perforate the cell. And so it does change the texture of the meat. Does it always make it worse? No. Sometimes it makes it better. But if you have a product that's good, freezing it could change it. So you have to be careful with that. Now, when we talk chicken, a chicken fresh off the field, for some people, whoa, that's kind of tough. For us, it's not, because we're meat eaters and we have strong teeth and we're used to fresh meat. But for some folks, if they freeze it once, then it softens it up a little bit and they can eat it a little bit better. Okay, so the guanciale didn't work out. Guanciale is from here. All of the pieces of meat that I've shown you are all cured in somewhat the same fashion. You know, they're salted, trussed, and hung. And when I say trussed, we're using some sort of device to hold them together and push out all the air so that we'll have less areas that are unusable. Like on this one, let's say we'd gotten after this after 3 months, let's say. Right there, you can see we didn't get this trussed properly. And I'm going to research this, but I think that when the meat is curing, drying, I think where there's meat, it's going to contract, and where there's fat, it's not going to contract at the same rate. And I think that's why this cupped this way. But this one didn't. This one did not. This one stayed flat. And this one I didn't even cut into. And I don't think I will. I think what I'll do with this one is hang this out back and use it as just a trainer, you know, so people can look at it. It'll never go anyplace. It's not going to get wormy. No flies are going to go on it. I have a prosciutto that's hanging in the back that was from a front leg that we made out of, and that thing's almost 6 years old, hanging out there in the sun and everything else, and it looks like I hung it out there yesterday. Okay, these are the products that I wanted to show you today, so I hope that clears up some thought processes. This is Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, anyone can farm.